In today's video, it's really cold in Florida. We talk about deloading or tapering, and my wife got me a new coffee mug. What's going on YouTube? This is Paul Revelia from ProPhysique.com, and I'm here for another video today. And you know, I got this awesome hoodie from Barbell Brigade a while back, and I felt guilty that I never get to wear it. So thank you, Sarah, for the amazing apparel, and I'm wearing it today despite the fact that it's 80 degrees in Florida. I wanted to make you guys that are up north dealing with the cold feel right at home. So let me drink a cup of Joe. Yeah, so funny story, wife got me the mug. That's funny, that's not the funny story. Who here has a Keurig? My Keurig has been on the fritz lately, and what it does is it doesn't stop brewing the cup of coffee. I hit the 12-ounce button and it filled this cup, which has got to be close to 20 ounces, to the brim. Luckily I caught it in time, turned the damn thing off, but man, that could have been messy. So I've had a little extra coffee today, so who knows what we're gonna see. P.E. Hyde asks, can you talk about how we would incorporate a deload in our training and the benefits of doing so? P.E. Hyde, thank you for the great question. So when we're talking about deloads and we're talking about tapering our training, it's very important to understand the specifics of what your training program is trying to do. The two major types of training programs that I deal with on a daily basis are muscle building programs, where we're focused purely on the hypertrophy of looking better, looking bigger, adding muscle, and then performance-based, which is more about powerlifting. When I'm talking about powerlifting, I'm usually talking about undulating periodization, using the method of changing the intensity of your training each time you get into the gym, using the big three as your focus. And although there may be some hypertrophy benefits, we are more focused on the performance aspect of training and improving your specific lifts to obviously compete in a powerlifting meet. So what does a taper or a deload look for each of those situations? Well, specifically speaking about a hypertrophy-based training program where your focus is on building muscle. When I want to taper or I want to deload, what I really want to focus on is getting rid of some of the inflammation, allowing strength to progress. When I design a hypertrophy-based program, I still like to focus on strength. Now, it's not the primary focus. Overall training volume is the primary focus, but having an aspect to your training where you're constantly improving, constantly getting stronger, hitting PRs in either weight, in volume, in any aspect is going to allow you to continue to stay motivated over a longer period of time. I find that just going in the gym and doing 8 sets of 6 week after week after week does get boring. But when you can look at a program and see that you're going to be hitting PRs at different intervals, then that's very beneficial. So when would I taper in a situation like that? What I typically like to do is do a buildup. So volume will increase, intensity will increase, and as we get to a place where we're gonna go for a PR, either like a 4 or 6 week block, we're going to taper after we get to that pinnacle, where we get to that point where we're hitting those PRs and we start to get a little bit beat up. Typically I look for feedback from clients in emails that might say something like, Coach, I'm really feeling beat up, I'm feeling run down, my lifts are not great this week, the speed is reduced, whatever it may be, something that triggers in me a thought of, you know what, let me look at the program, yep, we've been pushing pretty hard, so I will suggest a taper week or an intro week. That is where I'll take all the information, set up the new program. The first week of that program is basically going to be the deload or taper. What I don't typically like to do is take time completely off the gym. I know it can be very popular, and sometimes it can be necessary. Sometimes it can be warranted just because you need a break, a mental break from being in the gym, or you're going on vacation and you're gonna take time off. And sometimes I'll plan for that by having a lot more training intensity and frequency leading up to that time off. I myself do this if I know I'm going to take some time off from the gym. But typically what I like to do instead is reduce training volume. So the first week of the program, we're going to reduce intensity and reduce volume for a hypertrophy-based athlete. This simply means that intensity is related to the 1 rep max. So if we're usually training in the 70 to 80% of our 1 rep max range, maybe for the intro week, we're training at 55 to 65%. Now, 55 to 65% of your 1 rep max is very light. You can do it for infinity reps, quite a few. And if you've been lifting heavy for weeks at a time and going into the gym, it can kind of be tough on the ego because you're so used to putting in that crazy weight. People are used to seeing you grab the biggest dumbbells or bench all the weight or squat all the weight. And so it's tough on the ego to go in and use less weight. Why do I know this? Because I've done it myself. I've gotten to the place where I feel really strong, and of course the day that I'm supposed to be tapering, there's a guy in the gym who's lifting more weight than I was lifting, and so I'm really motivated to push it. And sometimes I've said, screw it, my taper can start next week. But in the interest of progression, that taper is going to be very valuable for many reasons. A lot of times when we train at a very high intensity level week after week after week, we begin to develop the inability to improve. And what a taper or a deload allows us to do is to actualize that progress. We're allowing our body to recover and to progress and to make the progress that it's going to add the muscle to the soft tissues, to the recovery. There's inflammation going on there. So do not be afraid of the taper. Now for a power lifter, generally what we'll do is after each block, we will do a taper specific to the goals. Now what do I mean by that? So for a power lifter that's about to do a meet, what we want to do is do a intense phase, overreach, then taper and get the rebound effect so that the day of the meet, we are having the best possible lifts, meaning our 1 rep maxes are higher than they've ever been. For someone that is not going to be doing a meet that week, what I'll typically do is go through an overreaching phase, taper, and then start a new block. Testing your 1 rep maxes is very, very dangerous, okay? Because we're getting into a position where you're going to be pushing harder than you've ever pushed. You're going to be getting psyched up. So your form, your technique, that's when we're gonna see breakdowns. And if you are a crazy sumbitch who wants to get PRs, you are not going to let form stop you from moving that weight, which is great. But if we do that too frequently and risk injury and have to take time off of the gym, that is not good for progress. So for powerlifters who are not going to be doing a powerlifting meet, I typically prefer that you test based on your AMRAPs, meaning we use a test set every so often, doing as many reps as possible with the weight. We can kind of base where your progress is at based on that instead of worrying about a 1 rep max. Now a lot of people use AMRAPs as an excuse to just go balls to the wall. AMRAP sets should not be a test of your will, a test of guts. It should be more a test of an honest strength assessment. Yes, you can push hard, but form should not break down. So tapering is a very valuable tool. And it's something that I feel like a lot of people don't use. And sometimes what happens is people will start a new program. They'll kill themselves on a program for 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks, maybe longer, and then they'll start a new program. And a week or two into that new program, they'll go, man, look at all the progress I've made. I was doing all that hard work before, now I'm doing less sets and reps, and I'm making more progress. This program is magic. What you've actually done in a lot of those situations is you've started a program with less training volume, a little less intensity. Because it's a new program, you're focused more on form, you're focused more on just following the sets and reps, you're not doing intensity techniques. This is just hyperbole, this is a possibility, it's something I've done. And so you associate the progress you make in those first 2 weeks of the new program with the new program. It was actually switching programs. It was going from one program to another, reducing your volume, and actualizing the progress that you were making in the other program. You were just beating yourself up so much that you never actually actualized the gains you were making. So hopefully that answers your question. I would reduce intensity and reduce volume the week of a taper or deload. I prefer not to take complete rest unless it's something you need. Personally, I love being in the gym, so I'm going to be in the gym regardless. So it's up to your individual situation, but they're very healthy. You're not going to lose progress. As long as it's a part of a program that you're doing, it's going to benefit you. So check the ego at the door, get in there, move light weights, and let's keep moving forward. I think that's going to be it for me today, guys. Deloading, tapering. It's a very diverse topic. If you have questions below, I can probably answer more specific to your needs. And until then, I'm going to take this sweater and hat off because it is hot in here. See you all at the LA Fit Expo January 7th and January 8th. My buddy Lane and I are headed out there. Couldn't be more excited to hit the West Coast this early in the year. Gonna hang out with some of my peeps like Emily Hayden, and we're gonna do some things, probably a Barbell Brigade, maybe Gold's Venice, who knows. Lane and I are talking about doing a meetup. You know, the 4 fans that we have, if you wanna come say hi, we can pick a location and do that. And until then, guys, have an awesome Tuesday and an awesome week leading up to the new year.